You're welcome back. It's still the EndSars movement update, where we bring you updates across the country. It's been intense in the last few days, and we are hoping that all of these merely is, put to rest. Let's go to Abuja studios very quickly, where we have correspondent standing by to bring us up to speed what's going on there.
It's an unfortunate situation playing out across Nigeria, and as you can hear, we've heard reports from other states, Jos, Port Harcourt, and here in Abuja, where we have the seat of power. I know a lot of people are concerned about what is happening in Abuja. Yes, of course, there were certain disturbances around the satellite towns in Abuja, but we're going to be having a brief discussion here in the studio with our chief correspondent at Aso Rock, in the person of Kehinde Amodu. Kehinde, I'll come straight to you. There has been a deafening silence, at least that is how Nigeria look at it. And yesterday, the Senate had to call the attention of the president to actually speak to protesters. Now we've seen what has happened in Lagos. What is the pulse at the villa at the moment?
Thank you, Aondona, for that question. First and foremost, what we've seen is a reluctance to talk. The president has not wanted to speak directly. He's spoken twice, so it's not really a deafening silence. He's spoken. He spoke first some days ago. Then he spoke when the Minister of Youth and Sports came to see him, specifically to speak on this EndSars movement. And on both occasions, he gave assurances. First, that SARS had been disbanded. Second, that all the 5 conditions or demands from the EndSars movement would be tackled one after the other in a timely fashion. That's his English. And so, yes, he's spoken. I guess what Nigerians want from the president is a broadcast, specifically speaking to the people of Nigeria, that, well, the government is on top of this, and yes, we'll do this and that. What people in government, what the National Assembly, leadership of the National Assembly, the consensus everybody has reached is that, yes, government has agreed to these demands. So give us time to implement these demands, and we'll make sure that we implement the demands in a timely fashion. And so the appeal had been that, okay, protesters, leave the streets and monitor. And then when you see that we are not coming across or we are not doing what you want us to do, then you can go back onto the streets. I think that's where the disconnect came from, because you could understand the protesters. The protesters feel that if they left the streets, the momentum that they had carried up onto this moment would be lost. And then, to mobilize again and get that amount of attention and that amount of zeal and effectiveness may not be possible, which is why they stayed on the streets. That let us start seeing these things being implemented rightly. So that's where the disconnect came.
All right.
Between government and the protesters.
Okay, now let's look at the incident that happened yesterday. So far, we've not had a robust response from the high command of the Nigerian army yet, or military, yes, army yet. But as it is right now, on their Twitter handle, they've repeatedly stated that the information that is out there in the public is mostly fake news. So let's look at basically what the social media platform has played in all of this. Now, I wanted to answer this question having in mind what we saw happen years back in Rwanda, where, the genocide was instigated by activities of, on radio. Do we see the same thing playing out here? We're not talking about a genocide, though, but do we see some form of similarity with social media and what happened back then as far as peace is concerned in Nigeria?
Well, government has repeatedly harped on the dangers of fake news and hate speech in the last 1 year or two. And the fear is actually based on the fact that in Rwanda, this kind of scenario happened and people were able to instigate ethnic groups against each other, and it resulted in genocide. And so right now, when we are faced with that same kind of scenario, not particularly the same kind of scenario, because you can't say that social media at this point is being used to spread fake news. But we can also say that many of the instances that we've seen on social media have tended to exaggerate the seriousness of the situation. And that is not to put down the movement. This movement has been mainly driven on the social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on all the social media handles. And that's because that's where the youth of the country reside. It's a quick on-the-go thing. You know, you want any information, you just open your phone and you go to whatever platform you want to go to, and you get the information there. And unfortunately, that medium has been, you know, people have taken advantage of that medium to actually twist the narrative. You understand? Because there are questions that are being asked, and there are narratives that are being formed that may not particularly be the truth. For instance, the narrative that the hoodlums and the thugs that are hijacking the protests were sponsored by government agencies. So, you know, the question that will come out of it was that, okay, let's say the hoodlums that attacked and gave the protest a bad name were sponsored by government. What about what has ensued after the killings in Lekki? Is it still government that is sponsoring hoodlums to burn down targeted places? Now that narrative has changed to say it's the angry youths that are burning down. You see where we're getting there. So the identity of those guys that have hijacked the process, were operating under the protests to bring about, to pursue their own agenda. Those people, the identities of those people have not been, you know, we don't know their identities yet.
So we need to move on fast. There have been reactions on the international scene as well. Joe Biden, who of course is running for the office of the president of the United States, has also sent out a message. Hillary Clinton has also put out a message. And we've heard lots of messages from entertainment stars across the world identifying with the EndSars protest and, of course, lending their voice to what happened at Lekki Tollgate yesterday. But what exactly has this put us? Where has this situation put us in the eye of the international community?
You see, that's the power. That's the power of social media. That's the power that the movement has garnered. Be able to get that international response. And that power itself is what tied the hands of government. You understand? Because we've seen in the past, when situations like this start getting out of hand, there's a swift mobilization of security forces. And, you know, these are quelled immediately. But the government had to be mindful of the image that it is portraying, especially in the international community. And this, to a large extent, caused there to be some restraint, even up to this point. You understand? It's unfortunate because we are now in the eye of the world. Can you imagine? We were on the headlines of BBC. You understand? The killings in Lekki made the headlines of BBC. So it shows that it is a very important turning point in our country. And it also shows that, you know, those people that were deployed to do that do not understand the power of communication. They don't understand how small the world has become. So right now we are in the eye of the world, and everybody is seeing that this is what happened in Lekki, the narrative is generally against us. It's generally against Nigeria as a country. And there's everybody mindful or unmindful of the image, the average, that the pains of the average Nigerian is going all out on government.
Okay. So before we hand over to Victor, very quickly, are we expecting, or should we be expecting, a state nationwide broadcast from the president, perhaps today or anytime soon?
I think it's reached that point. The point about the president making a nationwide broadcast is that he understands that that is not one of his strengths. That is why he's not too much enamored to speak, to do broadcasts, because broadcasts, you have to capture, it's like a straitjacket. You have to be, so it's like a tedious process that he has to go, but he has to do that now.
Okay.
No matter how taciturn his image may look, or how retiring he may be, and unwilling to face the crowd, he has to do this now. Right. Because that's the point. And I think right now his handlers will have impressed on him the importance of doing just that.
Okay.
And so that's the next. And I think it's a few days late, actually, because instead of using occasion and events to indirectly address the people, it's something that he should have just done. So even if it takes 1 hour to record a 5-minute broadcast, it would have been worth it, because it would have calmed down all. Yes. You know, when something is coming from the very top, you can't argue with that. Okay. But if you say government is doing it, who exactly is government?
All right, we'll leave it at that. I'd like to thank you so much, Victor, for having us on the program. We'll be looking at monitoring closely the situation here in Abuja, and we can only hope that the entire situation across the country is brought under control. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Aondona, Ingya, and our State House Correspondent, Kehinde Amodu, for that update. Thank you.